Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela, and welcome back to a request someone did on my video. I've done these kinds of videos before, but somebody actually requested me to do I don't know what you want to call it, a test run, if you will, to show how I worked with Uncover Your Past Lives Oracle by Mandy Peterson. I love this deck so much. I showed it in a recent video. I can't remember what video, but when I showed it, I think it was the top 10 Oracle decks by a VR assignment from the Hermit's Cave. Sorry, my nails I repainted them, but life happens. So what I've done is I pulled cards already just to save time. In the book, it gives you on the backs, what does it say? Love, identity, time frame, lesson, death, location, trauma, and faith is the inner circle of words. And then on the outside, it gives you all kinds of, like, identities, young male, or age of Atlantis is the time frame, if you get my drift. So, on the other side, however, that's why I pulled this one separate. Wow. I just flipped it over, and this is the archetypes. This is the archetype of the main theme of who you were. So there was a revolution, and I flipped it over to the wealthy elite. Now, I find it interesting because I've never been part of the elite status or group. In fact, any past life I've uncovered, I'm usually, the last one I uncovered was a very, very bad person who was a swindler and a cheat and a liar and a male. And I found that very interesting that popped up in that past life. But I've never had a past life where I'm part of the wealthy elite. So that is quite interesting. So let's just look at the other ones here. It says war or uprising, proliterate, reign of terror, wealthy elite. And so the keyword is revolution here that we're looking for. So all the cards, if you flip them over, have this. And the way I use this deck, there's plenty of ways in this book to use this deck. But the way I use it is I will flip a card over for that main thing. So we have revolution, and then wealthy elite was the who I was. So then we look in the book, and they're in alphabetical order. If you go to revolution, that's the main word we're looking for. Or swindler. I always pull that card too. Revolution. Romance. I cannot. There's a lot of R's. Revolution. So I don't have I have very limited space here. So revolution is the main word. Shows you a picture of the card in black and white. Then we go down the rabbit hole, as it were. So here's proliterate, reign of terror, wealthy elite, and then the war uprising here. So what I would do is go to wealthy elite, and I would read that. It says, in a previous life, you may have been part of the upper class during a revolution or reign of terror. Perhaps you endured persecution, were put to death, fled the country, or gave up your wealth or title to avoid being punished. And then it says archetype. Money, success, or recognition may come easy for you. It doesn't. However, this could cause those around you I can't hardly read that. It's like really small. However, this could cause those around you who feel less successful to feel envious or resentful. It may be hard for you to feel supported in your successes, or you may live with the fear that others want to bring you down. And that is a true fact for me because that touched on a nerve, kind of. It didn't touch on a nerve, but again, what I've said is I don't ever remember, I've never uncovered a wealthy elite status in a past life. I've been a cheat, swindle, broke person. I think my last life I was famous, but in the end they killed themselves. And what did that amount to? So I'm always questioning that. What did that amount to? What kind of wealth did this person have that, I mean, he still wound up killing himself. So, and it was a male. So I find that very interesting. And this could very well be that last life. Let's look at, so that's how I start the reading with these cards, is I pull a card for the archetype, if you will. And then I go through and read that. So the wealthy elite is what I picked. And so then I go through here, and in the back it says using the card backs. There's categories for each one of those, and I read them off. They're the time frame, lesson, death, location, trauma, faith, love, and identity. And I pull a card for each of those. So that's what I've done here. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this down on my phone as I go. Okay, so this is revolution. Revolution. And wealthy elite. Interesting. So next we go to time frame. And the book tells you each time frame in here too. Everything that's on these cards is in this book. So we look at time frame. So that's the first card. And then we go to time frame. And it's the age of Atlantis. So that was the time frame that I was this wealthy elite. And that actually, if you look at the romanticized version of Atlantis, they're all this wealthy and elite upper status quo, right? So that's very interesting. Wasn't my last life if it was the age of Atlantis. So that rules that out. Okay. And then let's look at the book. Okay, time frame. Oh my gosh. Pre-Earth, early Stone Age. I mean, it's all in here. The fourth age in here is the Age of Atlantis. The Age of Atlantis is a period between the Ice Age and 2000 BC. During this time, Atlantean, Lemurian, and other lost civilizations may have existed. So, if we think about it, like the Mayan temples and that kind of thing, maybe that was the same time frame. Who knows? That's very interesting. So then we put this card to the side, and then the next one is lesson. So we're going to go to the card, and we're going to look at lesson. That is accountability. Wow. Accountability. And as I'm writing it down, I also look at how can that... Because I believe anytime a past life comes up for you, it's for a reason. There's a lesson in it to be learned there. And accountability very well could be the lesson that I may not have learned in that life that I'm still trying to learn. So that's interesting. Does that make sense? Let me get through all the time frames. Wow. Okay, then we go to lesson. And it's the second one. It says, accountability. Your lesson may have involved learning to take responsibility for the predicaments you found yourself in, or how you may have affected others or life. Perhaps you needed to become more accountable for the role you played, even if it was a passive one. Wow. Uh, wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Um, that's just yeah. It hits home quite a bit. That's crazy. I've gotten that before, where even if you're passive and you think you're this wallflower that's doing nothing, other people may be noticing you, maybe seeing something of themselves in that. So that's quite interesting. Okay, so the next one is death. How did I die? Let me flip to death here. And then we'll look at the card. The death. Find death. So we find the inner card. Inner one here is death. And this is dementia. Wow. Wow. Dementia. Interesting. I have some health problems going on. If you guys have been paying attention to my channel, you would know that since December I've had nothing but heart issues and artery issues and just craziness. And that's insane. One of the I also was diagnosed with a seizure disorder when I was younger, much younger. Actually, right at the time I started having dreams that came true at 12 years old, I started having a seizure disorder. So that's interesting in and of itself, because that to me is where all of my psychic, mediumship, intuitive, sage, whatever you want to call it, started, was 12. But at that time, I was diagnosed with a seizure disorder, and I was also told by the doctor that I would never be able to live on my own, that I would never be able to drive a car, that I have a better potential now of getting dementia or something related to that because of the neural damage done to my brain. And I'm like, that's insane. So that's insane. A lot of parallels here that I'm not liking. So the next one would be, okay, so let's see what it says for dementia in the book. Dementia. You may have had Alzheimer's disease or suffered dementia toward the end of your life. So, yeah, I died old and rich, apparently. Location is next. Wait. Yeah, location is next. So, Asia. Interesting, because we're talking about the age of Atlantis here. And Asia, the Ming Dynasty and all that, that's really, really old stuff going on. So, that's interesting. Asia. I just said Ming because that's the only one I can think of. I think there's the Tang Dynasty, Ming Dynasty. I don't know how far back those go or anything like that. I just immediately thought of China and that kind of thing. So when I think of Asia, I think of that. So the location was Asia. Sorry. It's the third one down. It says you may have lived in the Orient or an area currently part of Asia, or you may have lived in a proximate location off the coast of Asia or somewhere currently underwater. It still could be Atlantis. Who knows? We don't know where exactly it's at. There's been like 3 places that people have said they knew where it was at. So that's interesting. So the next one is trauma. So then we find trauma on here. Trauma. Did I pass it up? Nope. Okay, it says psychic wounding. Ooh. Psychic wounding. Can you spell it? I want to wonder what the book says in that. Psychic wounding. Okay, so the trauma psychic wounding says you may have suffered trauma in a past life due to some form of psychic injury. Perhaps you were an empath who felt others' pain too deeply, or you may have felt affected by or frightened of voodoo, curses, negative entities, spiritual possession, or witch phobia. And I find that very interesting, this psychic wounding, because I immediately thought of the mind, and then I immediately thought of the dementia. Those could very well correlate together. And they say, I have, and it's interesting because the more heart issues I find out I have, the more I think about people who said, oh, mediums don't live that long because we wind up taking on too much energy, and it's just interesting how since I've started my spiritual journey, those are the things that have come up, is heart issues, potential stroke issues, potential Alzheimer's, things like that. And it's just, I find it interesting. It almost like it's repeating itself. Wow, interesting. So now we're on to faith. Faith was prophet-led. Wow. Let me see here what that says. So faith says, there's multiple pages. Prophet-led. You may have been part of a prophet-led faith. For example, you may have been a follower of Moses, Jesus, John the Baptist, Mahdi, Muhammad, or another lesser-known prophet. With this category, it is likely you follow this prophet during or not long after their lifetime. Some prophet-led groups focus on apocalypticism. Followers often believed that salvation came through following directions dictated by their prophet, who is seen as a direct communication with the divine. Wow. Prophet led. Interesting. So next we have love. And it's non-possessive. That's not very not very forthcoming. Let's see what the book says. Non-possessive. You may have experienced a non-possessive form of love or partnership. At times, this card position can indicate an open marriage or open relationship. That's what I thought. Interesting. Or none at all, maybe. And then the last one is identity. It says grandparent. So, and that makes sense. If I lived long enough to get dementia, I was probably pretty old, but I was a grandparent. And I got to tell you, a lot of this, I'm a grandparent now, so a lot of this feels like this lifetime is repeating itself in this life, which is very weird. And it's interesting because I often use, and we didn't read the book here on that. So grandparent, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll pull it up here. Grandparent. With a past life you are reading, you played the role of a grandparent. If reading a current relationship, you were the other party's grandparent in a past life. So that's interesting. So that's how I read this deck. Every time I read with it. And it's insightful, crazy. Then I often pull, this is my stretch tarot. This is the deck I go to for all other things, or for basically all past life, all mediumship, everything. Love this deck. But I'm just going to pull, before I run out of time real quick, I still don't know if I was a male or female. And usually I will get a vibe that I was one or the other, and I didn't get anything from that. So, what was I in this past life? So that's how I use the tarot, is I will kind of, and I actually have a deck that's geared for past lives, but I read it separately from this deck. This deck usually I will use first, the Uncover Your Past Lives Oracle, and then I will read, like I'm doing now with a tarot deck that's separate from the Art History Tarot for Past Lives, because it's its own thing. And sometimes I'll pull an oracle on top of that, but not from this deck. So this, if I'm using this oracle, this is the main reading deck. If I'm using the Art History for Tarot for Past Lives, that will be my main reading deck, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to pull a card here and ask, was I a male or female? Let's see, was I male or female? Male or female? Male or female? Oh, wow. And it's an old man. And it's the Hermit. Yeah, I assume I was a male. And I come up a lot of these past life readings. And one day I'll do another one with this deck that I usually read with this deck. The Stretch Tarot. But for now, I was just wanting to show the Uncover Your Past Lives Oracle and show how that works and how I use it. And I thought it was fantastic. It all made sense together, right? And I mean, come on, the Hermit, for an old person, we know I lived a long time. We know I was a grandparent. We know I got dementia. Clearly, it's a male. But yeah, I just wanted to show that to you guys and show you that's how I use this deck. Somebody did request that I show that. So I just thought I would check that out, or let you guys check that out and see if you liked it. If I can go back in the comments, I will go back to that video and find out who sent me that and send her the link to this one. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys tonight. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to comment below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you're alerted to any future videos. And y'all have a good night.